It is picked up by Aaron Rodgers over midfield. He'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Crosstalk TV podcast. Peace. Welcome to another episode of Croc Talk TV. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And man, today we're going to bring some expertise analysis. Obviously, it's QB Monday. My guy, Greg Panelli, he'll be joining us in a second. All right, but first, before we get started, make sure you guys, if you're not already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're over on Periscope, head over YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button right now. All right. And man, before Greg hops on, I like to talk a little bit and ask y'all how y'all doing, how y'all feel about the game yesterday. Obviously, everything that I know what y'all want to talk about, man. Y'all want to talk about Trey Lance, and we want to get into his performance. But I noticed some things, and when you talk to quarterbacks and quarterback guys enough, you start to pick up on little things. And I've had enough conversations with my guy Greg to where I'm like, you know what? I think I see what's going on right now with Trey Lance. So a lot of people are coming out and they're like, oh, he's not ready. Trey Lance is not ready. And I'm like, I see where they're coming from, but I think they're kind of missing the full picture of what's going on. I don't think it's an ability standpoint. I don't think he's somebody that can't play at the NFL level. I just think there's one thing that needs to slow down. All right. But I'm done talking, man. We're going to get my guy Greg on so he can really give his expert analysis. All right, so here we go. Greg Panelli.
What's up, Rock? How you doing, man?
You know what? Hold on. I'm tripping. I don't even got our background up. Hold on. Where's it at? Here we go. And boom. There we go. Okay, that's part of it.
There we go.
And, so there you go. You guys can follow him right here at Greg_Panelli. Follow me on Twitter as well at Eric_Crocker if you're not already following me. All right, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. All right, you already got some people in here, man. You got some people saying, tell them cats to chill. What were your just overall thoughts watching Trey Lance initially? Let's start from the beginning when he was 1 of 6. What were you saying in your head?
I would say that Trey yesterday compared to the prior week looked a little bit more rushed. It goes back to kind of what you said on Twitter. He didn't look as comfortable per se. His feet were moving around a little bit more, kind of happy feet a little bit, or somewhat of some happy feet in the pocket, and not every time. But he just looked a little bit more rushed. His progressions, or how he was going through his progressions, compared to the week prior, didn't look as sharp. So I think there might have been a few that he missed, and obviously we'll dive into that probably a little bit more. But he just looked a little bit more rushed. He didn't look as comfortable as he did week 1.
Right now, again, we're talking about his initial 7 attempts where he started off 1 out of 6, or his initial 6 attempts. 1 out of 6. I'm looking at it like, dang, what's going on? Right away, I noticed on his interception and actually he kind of came out and threw kind of back-to-back high throws to one to Deebo Samuel, which was high and behind him. The other one was to Mohamed Sanu, where it was high over the middle. That one resulted in kind of going off of his hands and getting intercepted. When you see somebody like that and he's like clearly kind of missing high, he looks a little rushed. How do you fix that part of his game?
You talking about like the high passes, or are you talking about just the being rushed and that type of thing?
So does that all kind of go hand in hand with what you're saying?
So like if you watched what Trey was doing, even those passes, like, towards the middle of his, I guess, series that he got, even then he was, and I tweeted out, the dude's got a hose, right? And I know the adrenaline's cranking, so that's going to contribute to some of that, some of those misses, high and low, some of those balls that are coming in way more hot than they probably should have, because you could see where his feet would get a little bit happy one way, and then he'd flip, and then boom, the ball's out, and the ball would just be on a rope. And typically, as a quarterback, like you miss a read, you go back to another one, and you see it last second. Like, what are you going to do? You're just going to lob it in there, or are you just going to crank it up and see what happens with it. Obviously, the receivers were open on a couple of them, and he just unloaded it. And I don't think the guys were necessarily ready for those. But on some of those throws, and that kind of contributes to some of those throws where he'd miss higher, just a little bit more in front. I think the adrenaline one, some mechanical issues, maybe I'd have to go back and really analyze the little things that he did with his feet and where his body position was. But, at the end of the day, there was people on Twitter talking about it. And of course, there's going to be the mechanical specialists all over the world that are going to want to tweet about the little things with Trey Lance mechanics. And this is as a quarterback trainer and somebody who watches it closely and nitpicks guys here and there, it gets to a point where these guys are professional athletes for a reason, right? Patrick Mahomes. If you want to talk about biomechanics and the mechanics of the quarterback play, Patrick Mahomes, not perfect mechanics. Josh Allen, not perfect mechanics. Those are the two main young guys. Kyler Murray, not perfect mechanics. Dak Prescott, not perfect mechanics. So if we're going to dive into this world, if this is what it's supposed to be, and this is it would be no fun for the game. You would make every quarterback the same. What makes it fun to watch is guys are different. Patrick Mahomes can throw it sidearm, throw it behind his damn back, throw it without looking, right? Throw it over the top. I mean, he does everything. Josh does the same thing. Rodgers does the same things. Like the one guy, if you want to talk about from a biomechanics perspective, that is damn near perfect and almost looks the same every single time is Tom Brady, right? Now, he's got it done, and people are going to say, well, of course, that's why Tom Brady's won 7 Super Bowls. No. It's not why he's won 7 Super Bowls. He's a pretty damn good leader. He's played for some good coaches, and he's a freaking great quarterback. But because of the way he throws the ball the same every single time, yes, he's improved on his accuracy over his career, and he works with a quarterback coach named Tom House, and he's a biomechanics guru. Drew Brees was the same way. They worked with the same quarterback coach. If you look at both of those guys from a mechanical standpoint, they're very similar, right? Is it sexy and fun to watch them do these crazy throws? Well, they don't really do them. They don't take those risks necessarily, but I think also in part from that, they've known their offenses so well. They know how to read defenses so well. They don't necessarily put themselves in bad positions to have to make crazy off-platform throws or throws that aren't necessarily on script or off script, if you would. So guys like Trey Lance, the younger guys coming up, yes, they've all had quarterback coaches. They go to quarterback coaches in the offseason. But at the end of the day, those guys are playing fluid. They're being athletes. They're not the sit in the pocket and look cute throwing the ball type of dudes. Those are the guys that are going to move around and get it done. Like Trey Lance, scrambled, it ends up, was it on the 2-point conversion that gets called back?
Yeah. Well, hold on. Before we get into that part of his game, right? Because I kind of want to touch a little bit more on some of his downplay to start off. Again, we started off talking about how he started the game completing 1 out of his first 6 passes. And like you said, the adrenaline is rushing, kind of playing a little fast. You thought that his feet were a little off a little bit, but you have to go back and really dive into it to see exactly what the issue is. And compare that, and again, we'll get into good Josh Allen, but compare kind of what you saw with him to young Josh Allen. And for those of you who don't know, my guy Greg, he's been around Josh Allen for a good amount of years now, since he was coming out of high school, right? Yeah. And going the junior college route and everything. And he's worked with Josh Allen in the off seasons, and he's seen the progression of Josh Allen. He's been there and had conversations with him on, when Josh Allen was the 52% passer, when he was the 58% passer, and now him being going from that to an MVP candidate. So when you look at, and again, we'll get into the good that Trey Lance had, but when you get into kind of Josh Allen and some of the hiccups that he had early on and some of the things that made him a little bit more of an inconsistent passer, can you draw any parallels between what you saw with Trey Lance yesterday and Josh Allen early on in his career?
Very similar, almost identical, honestly. You talk about the feet being in line with the throws, or calmer feet in the pocket, but pre-snap and post-snap reads, understanding the defenses. I apologize. Pre-snap, post-snap reads, having guys or having an understanding where guys are going to be, protections. So knowing the offense, and we've talked about that over and over, like as young rookie quarterbacks, knowing the offense, I mean, I don't even know if I'd put a number on it as far as like, that's going to be half the battle or more than half the battle. Like, it's so imperative that they understand the offense in order to feel confident in operating that offense on a Sunday. So these guys, Josh, Trey, huge arm guys, big athletes. They're just, at the young age that Josh came in and now that Trey's in, just being comfortable, being able to settle down. Like if you watch Josh's game the last couple of years or last year compared to the first couple of years, you'll see that he's finally settled. Like he got to a point where in his second season where you can kind of say, like, okay, he came into himself. He wasn't trying to be somebody else. We've talked about that before too. Like guys trying to hold him back, trying to hold Trey back. Don't be the running quarterback. Don't be the guy right now being the athlete that you are and just making them pocket passes. Well, I feel like Josh was trying to do that somewhat at first. And then he finally came into himself and played his own game. And that's what we're seeing now out of Josh. But if you look at the footwork, the happy feet, the inconsistencies maybe in the reads and not seeing things as clearly as he does now, that's what I saw and what it looked like from Trey Lance yesterday. So I think there's a lot of similarities between the two of them, honestly.
All right, now, so let's get into good Trey Lance, right? And he finished, I think he completed 7 out of his last 8 attempts, something like that. Like he pretty much caught fire. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people that would say, well, he's playing against second and third stringers, and they'll say that that's the reason why he had his success later in the game. My thing was the reasons why he was missing early on didn't have anything to do with the defense being like, tighter coverage or anything like that. Like he was just missing. And then he caught fire and he stopped missing. What difference did you see, from him when he started kind of getting the groove, which really started with his 2-minute or really 1-minute drill? You marched the 49ers all the way down the field, scored a touchdown. But you had the 1-minute drills. He drove down and scored a touchdown. And it seemed like he started to kind of, like you said, kind of settle down. Maybe the adrenaline started to come down a little bit. And I mean, he just throws hard regardless. But it seemed like things started to be a little bit more on target. Well, what did you think?
Finally, so the first couple drives, the first quarter, basically, the first couple drives that he's in there, obviously things are a little bit quicker and finally takes some time to settle down. Once he settled down, the ball was coming out a little bit more on time. I did still see him rush through some things where he might look one way and pop back, try and get back quickly and rush through something. But there was also a couple of plays that Shanahan dialed up for him that were one of them was that big hitter where they did almost like that wheel concept up the sideline. Was it Sherfield? The deep?
Yeah, it was Sherfield that cut down the right sideline.
Yeah. So like plays like that, that's going to build some huge confidence, right? That'll take away the couple misses that you had prior and make people forget about the couple misses you had prior. He threw that nice layered ball at the sideline, and then he took him down to score. Was it Benjamin on that? Is that the one?
Yeah, the touchdown.
Yeah. So on that one, made a good read. It was a flat defender read. He looks the backer, holds the backer inside, and then popped his feet back outside and threw a laser to him. And then Benjamin makes a miss. He looked more settled at that point. Like everything looked a little bit more calm. The game got a little bit slower for him. But I'm going to ask you this, like as far as what you saw on the misses, because I see those and then I go back and watch them like in slow-mo sometimes on some of those misses. So which misses stuck out to you that you thought were like big misses? Because I think I have a different
got a different perspective, huh? Okay, yeah. So the one that jumps out, and there were some misses where I'm like, I think that's kind of on the receiver a little bit. So I'll start off with one that I thought was on the receiver more so, right? He threw this out route to Richie James, and he threw it hard. I'm not going to lie. But Richie James started kind of stopping his feet to like catch the ball and stop at the same time instead of running through the ball. And I thought he made it dang near impossible on himself to catch it. It wasn't an off-target throw. Like it just went through his hands.
Right.
And right now, I mean, that's kind of happened a good amount of times with Trey Lance. He leads all quarterbacks in the preseason right now with drops. So he's had 7 drops. That's more than any other quarterback right now. I think the only guy that's next to him is who with 6 is Justin Fields. He has 6. Now, maybe it's because Trey Lance is on the ball just hella hard. But I thought that was one there where, yeah, the ball is coming hot. but you got to run through that. He was trying to stop himself while catching it. I don't think Richie James has those type of hands right now. So that was one where I definitely was like, you know what? I think that's a little bit more on the receiver. But the one that jumps out immediately to me is definitely the Deebo Samuel one that's high and behind him. And again, he's throwing it hella hard. I think that's the one, because you can throw it high and behind somebody and they can adjust and make the catch. But when you throw it as hard as he does, I think that makes it a little bit more difficult of a catch to kind of bring in that situation.
And I think there was those couple where Jimmy had that one first drive of the game. It was like that deep big route, throw it a little bit high and away, receiver drops it. Who was that? Was that Ayuk?
Ayuk, yeah.
And that was picked off. And then two more thereafter, which I think were both from Trey, another in route dropped, and then another one that was picked off. Now, and I saw Harper tweet about it yesterday, and I was like waiting for a receiver to actually come out and say something about it. But I saw Josh Harper tweet about it yesterday. Shout out to the Stockton boys.
So Josh Harper, for y'all don't know, Josh Harper, Fresno State legend. I think he came after Devontae. Well, he was there with Devontae Adams.
With Devontae, yeah.
But he was there all 4 years, and he has like every receiver record damn near there, or at least like most catches and yards is like through a career at Fresno State. So yeah, Josh Harper got to show him a little bit of love. But what was his tweet?
No, he said something about the receivers got to make that catch, and I agree, because when I train with when these receivers come back in the offseason, they're training with us. If I throw a ball like that in training, 100 times out of 100. If I even said that's my bad, they'd stop me right there. No, I got to catch that. I mean, they're going to say it over and over and over again. That's what those guys are paid to do. Now, could it have been a little bit of a better ball? Absolutely. But that ball high and away here on a dig route, yeah, you're leaving your body a little bit more vulnerable.
A little bit more vulnerable.
Well, not for hitters like you. We don't got to worry about you guys across the middle.
Well, right. But so we got these, like, this is the way I'm looking at it, right? And I put some of it on the receiver, because at the end of the day, like you say, if you ask a receiver, and I said this last night when it happened, you ask a receiver, the receiver is saying definitely have to catch that rock. Like every receiver I know is going to say, I got to catch that. But I'm looking at it from a non-objective perspective. And it's like, you got a dude stretched out over the middle with a high-ass ball with guys kind of coming in the direction of him. Your body is going to tense up just naturally. You're going to tense up a little bit. You're going to kind of prepare yourself for what could possibly be coming. And I think that kind of just adds a little bit more higher difficulty of a catch to a situation that should have been routine with a guy that was so wide open over the middle of the field. But then once you kind of throw it up high, I think that makes it a little bit more difficult on that receiver going over the middle, knowing what could possibly be at the end of it.
I think that if you would look at the elite receivers in the NFL in today's game, how many do you think are going to make that catch?
I think a good amount. I mean, I think, okay, I'd say this. I'd say most receivers can make that catch. I'll say that. Now, will they? I mean, that's kind of hit and miss, but I think most receivers can make that catch.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So I don't think, like, in Jimmy's to me wasn't as bad. Trey's was a little bit hotter, so it's going to make it a harder catch. Jimmy's was just a terrible drop and interception, and it's going to go on.
I actually thought the Sanu one was more of a pure drop than just a bad. Again, it's coming in hot. I think that's what makes it more difficult. I didn't think that it was just like super off target or super out of reach or anything like that. I think the velocity of it, though, made it a little bit more difficult.
Right. No, I agree with you.
So, but we had Trey Lance, who, again, you had some up and down, but then seemed like he started to settle in, completed 7 out of his last 8 passes. I thought they started to do some things that I've been like hoping that they did. And like clearly he's struggling a little bit post snap with what he's seeing. And you can tell because I was watching him in practice against the Chargers, and he hitched on one throw. He hitched 2 times before throwing an out route to a wide open River Craycraft. So he looked this way, pump, over the middle, pump, then sees him and then throws it. Right. And I'm like,
that type of throw was an absolute dart because he's trying to rush the throw, right?
Right. So I'm thinking, but he doesn't quite know what he's seeing out there. So then when you look at the interception, right, with Mohamed Sanu, he went pump and then throws it. And I'm like, he's second guessing everything that he's doing. And I thought that was more of the bigger issue. So, but it was good to see him come back and kind of rebound. Talked about the slants that he missed over the middle, or he missed Debo Samuel. He missed Muhammad Sanu. But then on that 1 minute drill, he hit Brandon Ayuk on the slant. He hit Trent Sherfield on the slant. And I thought from that point he started to get his confidence back. But the one thing I did like that Kyle Shanahan did at one point was he rolled him out on a bootleg left, and he threw this really perfect pass to Brandon Ayuk, kind of hit him in stride while flipping his hips around and then throwing it.
Yep.
And I'm kind of upset with Kyle Shanahan because I feel like you see he clearly needs help building the confidence and seeing them feel better. So why not early on do some things where you get them out on the edge and it's an easy read. It's a high-low read. This is simple. So now you're just his natural ability is going to take over, which we saw end up happening. His natural ability start taking over. But why not get him going with stuff like that where it's easy reads? I mean, I thought going empty with him, and I'm just a talking head. I don't know what Kyle Shanahan wants to see, right? Like it may not be, Kyle Shanahan wanting to make him look good. Maybe he wants to test him and see, let me just see what he can do. But I mean, they went empty several times, and each time they went empty, I like cringed because I'm like, man, like you're giving him a whole lot. Let's roll him out. Let's do some boots just to get him in a rhythm. And then once you kind of build on his confidence, then, okay, now start going empty and do those things. It seemed like he wasn't trying to ease him in, and he did the same thing last week where first play of the game, which ended up being a result. I mean, it ended up resulting in a drop by Ayuk. But first play, he did like 20-yard curls. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, you got a guy sitting back there, like, why can't we just get him on the move, get him an easy completion or two, and then start to build on that? His next passing attempt, I mean, he threw a touchdown, and that's great. But doesn't it seem like that's a little
like you want a guy to get into a groove first, right? So like
that's what I would think.
Like the first play of the game, I remember even going back to just no matter who you are, most NFL quarterbacks or most college guys, most high school guys, just as a whole, you'd see the offensive coordinator first pass play of the game is usually like a slant or use like a bubble, or you'll throw a couple of them in a row, stop routes, something like that, just to kind of settle the nerves a little bit. And for those out there, NFL quarterbacks get nerves too. There's anxieties that are out there. Like it's not just they don't just show up out there on Sundays and they're not nervous and it's just another day for them. Like it's going to happen, right? They have everybody in the world watching them and a fan base and their jobs on the line and they're trying to earn starting spots. So there's going to be some nerves. But I think that you're right from that perspective, like giving them some things that are going to be one-man reads, like a high-low read, a flat defender read, curl flats, slants, double slants, whatever it may be. Easy reads instead of these pure progression, full field scan reads from right to left or left to right, that are going to take a little bit more experience, a little bit more timing through practice and through reps that are kind of confusing to him maybe. And I'm not going to say that they're confusing him because I'm sure he understands a practice, right? But then you get out to a game and you get a different look, you get a different defense thrown at you, and it's going to screw some things up where guys are rolling or guys are in different positions that you necessarily thought. So it looked like there was multiple times where he would take the snap and he's looking one way and either he got fooled on the coverage or he just blatantly missed the read or he was looking in the wrong spot. I would be curious to see, and we probably won't hear it anyways, but I'd be curious to sit in the film room and listen to what Shanahan's saying to him in regards to what reads he did have or what if he was looking in the right spot, or if he just, it was a completely missed thing because he didn't see the coverage or didn't see safeties rolling or linebackers in a position. So then he has to rush himself to get back across the field, and then he makes those throws, which, like, it's fun to watch him do it. Not fun to watch him miss the read necessarily, or clutch up on one read and then double clutch on the next one, and then he just fires it back. But when he does let the ball go, you're like, holy crap, like this dude's really got the juice. Like he can pump it. And that's what's fun. So it's going to be exciting to see when he does come into himself a little bit more, when he does understand those progressions, like the velocity that he has on the football, the throws that he's going to be able to make and squeeze balls in certain areas, digs, go routes. I mean, I just want, like next game, let's just let him do play action, 7-step drop, and just throw it 70 yards over the top. Let's just see. Why not? Let's just see at the point, because I know everybody wants to see it. And so, I think that he's gonna battle test him a little bit. Like, he's gonna throw these plays at him. And the talk is, I know, especially for me, you're like, screw it, throw him in there week 1. Let's see him. But I think that he has to be able to operate fully of the offense. And what he's throwing at him right now, instead of just these dink and dunk passes and more West Coast style offense at him to make it easier on him, I think he's throwing everything at him to test him. Now, if Trey Lance came out there yesterday and was, 10 for 12 or, 10 for 14 and a couple touchdowns and no picks and no drops and everything was operated fine, I think then we might be having a conversation. Okay, like, this dude can actually operate this offense at the same level that Jimmy might be able to. So let's throw him in there. Like, let's see. It is going to be a true quarterback competition, but I still think at this rate right now, from what we've seen, yes, Trey's done well, but with Jimmy only getting a series, or was it 1 or 2 series max?
2 series total.
Yeah, 2 series. It's not a competition right now. It's Jimmy's job, and Trey's going to have to do some spectacular things in order to gain a little bit more attention from Shanahan to actually get him into the game.
Now, what do you think about, like, because there's people like me who are saying, play him, and that's the way that he's going to improve, and that's how he's going to see the field better. Like, he just needs the experience of going up against these different defenses and the way people are going to scheme against them. Do you think that it's better for him to sit behind Jimmy, or do you just think he will sit because Jimmy right now gives the 49ers the better chance to be able to work?
I think that's what it is. I think if we were in a position, if you were the Jets, right, I think that Trey Lance would probably be playing, right? Because, and we talked about this, like, the team that the 49ers have built up to this point is a win now team, right? This is like, we're on the fringe of the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Like, they're trying to get right back to the Super Bowl, obviously. And every team is, and a lot of teams have a Super Bowl every year, but most of them are full of crap. Like, there's a select few that got what it takes every year, obviously, to make it. And the Niners have built that team where they're at right now to try and go back and win the Super Bowl. Given last year we had all those injuries, this year I think that obviously with people being healthy, like, they're going to be ready to rock and roll. Does Trey give them the best chance right now currently from what we've seen? I don't think so, but I'm going to ask you that. From what you've seen up to this point, and now we haven't seen a ton of Jimmy, but you've seen Jimmy and you know what he brings to the game. You know what he's going to do. That has been out there for the last 4 years, 3 or 4 years. What do you think right now, realistically, not for the Twitter world?
If I had to,
hey, you're the coach and you're Shanahan, and you're going in. Week 1 is next week. Obviously, it's not next week, but if week 1 was next, what are you going to do?
Today, I feel like I got to go out and win one game. I'm going with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's it.
I think for me, and again, I'm not the one that has one winning season in 4 years like Kyle Shanahan. So there's a different level of sense of urgency that he's under. I'm thinking big picture. And I just look at, like, where are we trying to get this guy to, right? Because if we're talking about maximizing this offense and running it at its full potential, he has a skill set to give you a better chance to do those things. So I'm looking at it like, and again, like you said, the team, it's quote unquote Super Bowl ready. I look at it like, F all that. Like, we're talking about a 49ers team that hasn't won a Super Bowl since 1994. And they've been to a couple, obviously lost both of them. But what is it going to take for the 49ers to be able to win that game? And I think it is going to take a quarterback like Trey Lance to be able to get the 49ers over that hump, to be able to make some plays that Jimmy Garoppolo just isn't capable of doing, or some throws he's not able to, or some plays with his legs. So I look at it from the standpoint of, we need to do everything possible to get this guy ready for that big moment, because I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is that guy. I watched that season through a different lens than I think most people, and I defended Jimmy Garoppolo a lot. But if you kind of go back and you look at some of those games, especially a lot of those wins, he didn't have to, like, be like a guy. And he even won those games with turning the ball over a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is dang near a turnover machine, and we're seeing it in practice right now. He's throwing the interceptions almost daily. pick six on the goal line to Jauan Jennings. Then he gets in the game and he sails the ball high over the middle and it gets picked off again. Like, he's been a turnover prone guy, even if you can look at it like, well, it's not 100% his fault. Brandon Ayuk could have brought that ball in, but it's like, but Jimmy Garoppolo turns the ball over. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I look at it from the standpoint of, I know what Jimmy is, and it's like, I know we can win with him, but can I build an offense around Trey Lance and do some different things and simplify things and still take some shots to where maybe the level of efficiency isn't as great as it would be with Jimmy, but I make up for that with more explosive plays, right? And that's what we've seen even in the two preseason games so far. He has generated the explosive plays with his arm, and eventually it's going to be with his legs as well, because that's a different added element that we haven't even seen from him right now.
Look at Jimmy. Jimmy looks like he's been hitting the sprints in the offseason. Yesterday, he got out of there.
I know. I saw the 10-yard run.
Pulling the base going in a second. He popped up ready to rock and roll.
I saw that. I said, okay, let's go, Jimmy. And I get excited for stuff like that. I think the issue, I would be more confident in like Jimmy Garoppolo, where if I see him doing some of the things that like I felt like he has kind of struggled with, right? Like throwing outside the numbers, really being more consistent with his accuracy. Saw him throw a high 5-yard stop route to a tight end yesterday, and Charlie Warner like threw it hella high on third down. I'm just like, then another third down play, threw the ball short of the sticks when he had the drive route open over the middle. So it's like we talk about him being this efficient guy, but then he's leaving money out there too. Like he's leaving plays on the field as well, and he's still turning the ball over. So what am I really lacking if I go with a rookie? I think only thing I'm really missing is like the comfortability of knowing that I've won games with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right. No, and I think that Shanahan, I wouldn't say he's on a hot seat, but he knows like you can't go when you can have a one win winning season, or that's not the right way to put it. You can't have one winning season in 4 years and expect to just, if you keep on doing that, you're going to be there for the next 5. You know, obviously, I think a lot of people love Shanahan. I think that what Shanahan brings to the table is great. We've had some crappy luck as far as guys getting hurt, like last year, right? We were coming off a Super Bowl year, and it seemed like every week there was like everybody was literally on the IR last year. So that didn't help. Like you're playing with a bunch of, and again, I'm not knocking these guys, but you're playing with dudes that probably wouldn't be starters on most teams anyways. Or would be starter on some teams. But when your main guys are out every single week, that puts a little bit more pressure on Shanahan. Obviously, you got to dial some things up. Dudes don't know the playbook as well, or might not know the playbook as well, so you're limited on what you can call. But I think what Trey brings to the Niners, just even watching that 2-point conversion yesterday, like, okay, like I'm excited to see this in the future. This is what I want to see because he brings that extra level, like Josh, like Mahomes, like Kyler Murray, like Russell Wilson, like Rodgers, guys that can get out and make a play with their legs, and it's a little bit more effortless compared to a Jimmy G who's going to go and probably slide, pick up some yards. But like Trey, he's an athlete, and I think that's obviously Justin Fields. Like that's where the game is going from the quarterback position, where those guys are a little bit more twitchy, a little bit more athletic than they used to be. And it's going to be exciting to see when his time comes. At the end of the day, like, you know, as a Niner fan, like I've told you before, that I don't care who the hell is playing quarterback. You put Kittle in there playing. I don't have any, like, whoever's going to win the games and give us the best chance to win, I don't even care what his name is.
I have a question for you. So Josh Allen clearly started playing better. We talked about year 3, right? And what clicked? And do you think that he had to go through what he went through year 1 and 2 to get to where he was year 3? Do you think him playing right away benefited him, or do you think that hurt him and maybe dragged out his, progression?
I think him playing right away and getting that feel for it was good for him, but they didn't have any other options. Like the starter in front of him was Peter.
And I think they still started somebody else. I mean, he only started 11 games his rookie year.
I think he went in like the second or third game of the year was his first start or something like that. I forget. I'd have to go back and look. But they got killed their first game, and he got in. But I think it was Nate Peterman was the starter in front of him. Yeah. So, I mean, you want to talk about – in my honest opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree, I think there's a little bit of a difference between Nate Peterman and Jimmy Garoppolo. You know,
I don't know. Did you watch Nathan Peterman the other day in preseason? No,
was he lighting it up?
He actually did all right.
Okay, but
no, he's not. I mean, come on now.
So like,
I'm joking.
I don't think they had full confidence in Nate Peterman, obviously, for Josh to be learning behind him. And they brought in what was his name?
What did they have Tyrod Taylor?
Derek Anderson. I think they brought him in.
Who?
Derek Anderson. You remember him?
Derek Anderson, the big quarterback that played with the Browns.
It was there Josh's first year. I think it was him, not more. I think it was him. And they brought him in basically for Josh to like pick and pull things from. And it wasn't for them to like start Derek Anderson. I'm almost positive. I'd have to look as soon as we get off here. But they brought in a veteran for him to learn from, obviously, for him to pick some things from and build that confidence within. So I think that's what they're doing, obviously, with Trey right now. And we've seen that pattern with guys that have sat. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Steve Young got to sit behind me. He got thrown in the fire, and he got to sit behind Montana. Like those three guys, Hall of Famers alone right there, I think it's good. Like I think it's big that he gets to learn from Jimmy right now. And understanding that it's a little bit of it's got to be hard. Like Jimmy's still young. Like the other guys that were learning, like he was learning from Drew Bledsoe. Tom Brady was learning from Bledsoe and Favre. And like you see the situation that's going on in Green Bay right now. They just drafted Love, and Aaron Rodgers ain't having it, right? Like he was not happy about it. He felt like, okay, I know exactly what's going on now. Like I still got plenty left in the tank to be able to do this. So do you really think at the end of the day he's going to be making sure that Love knows the offense each and every week and the defensive, like I doubt that they're sitting down after practice and he's really going over this offense with Love. But I think that what Trey shows that he can, I think that he showed that he can make plays, not just with his arm, but with his feet. He brings another element to the game that we haven't seen in a while. He's a more accurate passer.
He's the most accurate passer past the sticks out of all the rookies in preseason.
That's what I was going to say. So more so than a lot of the other rookies, he's putting the ball on the money, and the media is going to tell you it's hot. It's too hot. He's throwing it too hard. He's got to calm down a little bit. Like it's easy to say until you step back there and you're behind the line of scrimmage and you see a guy open in a tight window. Like you're just going to throw the ball. You don't even think in your head, I got to throw this a little softer. Like you're getting the damn ball to the receiver. However it comes out, that's what happens at the end of the day. You're not thinking I should probably throw it soft on this one. Like, yeah, if it's a dump off across the middle or a drive route or a drag route, like obviously there's some times where he can throw it a little bit softer. Or if it's a zone coverage, right, and somebody's in the hole, like there was a couple yesterday where it was zone and he just absolutely ripped it. But again, receivers are going to tell you. I would be shocked if I asked 10 receivers in the league, does he need to throw that softer so you guys can catch it? They're going to say, we don't care. Like, we just want the ball.
Yeah.
Probably catch it. And I know the Niners receivers are feeling like that today.
So what you're saying is they're not good enough. They don't have enough hands, and the 49ers need to go get Stephon Diggs.
I would not. The Niners can get Stephon Diggs. I think everybody who's listening right now, including everybody else across the United States, would say, yeah, well, why wouldn't you want to go?
Right.
Why wouldn't you want a Devontae Adams? Why wouldn't you want a big guy like that? And I thought, like, realistically, and we're dealing with the herd stuff. It's like we haven't even seen him play. Like, he was a big receiver that we drafted. And when is the last time? Because I think back, like, when's the last time we've had a big physical receiver? Terrell Owens? I'm talking big physical, not.
It's got to be T.O., J.J. Stokes. It's got to be.
And then you look back, like they came out with it a couple weeks ago, like Brandon Lloyd. Like, when's the last time we had a dude like Brandon Lloyd making catches like that? I can't think of it. We have these little, and I say little. They're not 6'5" dominant 50-50 ball like Moss U type of receivers. They're the yak guys, right? Ayuk is a yak guy. Deebo Samuel's a yak guy. We got George Kittle. Like, I feel like we're really missing a big time physical receiver that is a sure-handed dude. Anquan Bolden was a sure-handed dude, but he wasn't a big time outside the numbers physical receiver that's going to go over the top and get it. And I've always wanted to see it like a DK Metcalf. Like, could you imagine a DK Metcalf in the Niners offense?
They had a chance, man. I mean, Debo got taken. He got taken 2 spots in front of Hurd.
They've had the chance to go get these guys. We just haven't done it. And I don't know if Shanahan's – I mean, he obviously did really well with Julio Jones. I don't know why we haven't got a guy.
And Andre Johnson.
There you go. So I'm hoping next year's draft, and I got to look at the receivers, and I'll wait for the Croc report stuff to come out as far as the receivers go. But I think that's one thing, and I've said it for the past 5 or 6 years, like that is what the Niners are missing. We need a big physical receiver. You got all this stuff that we could do across the middle. West Coast offense, crossers, mesh routes, drive routes, high, low, and guys across the middle. Kittle's a freak, obviously. But if we had a guy outside the numbers, you're taking safeties off of Kittle. Because that's the thing. Like, we got to have a guy that's an outside threat to the point where you got to start taking dudes off of Kittle, right? You got dudes that are all working across the middle for the most part and nothing outside. There's a lot of traffic across the middle. And I know he gets Kittle open and they find ways to get Ayuk and Samuel open. But if you had a big show-stopping dude outside, I think the Niners offense would do so much better.
Right. Here we go. I want to answer this real quick. So this guy says, my guy Bill says, first 7 attempts were versus the ones. After that, it settled down, was versus 2s, 3s, and 4s. And we kind of touched on this when we first got on here. One, Chargers didn't really have ones in like that. Like, there was no Derwin James out there. There was no Bosa out there. Like, they didn't play a lot of their main guys. Even the Murray guy, their middle linebacker, like, he wasn't playing. So they said, like, so I wouldn't even like consider it true ones that he went up against when he first got in. And then my second thing to that is, and we touched on it earlier, the guys were open. Like, it's not like the degree of difficulty was tougher because he was going up against maybe some different guys. It was just his confidence in what he was seeing and throwing the ball too hard or throwing the ball late and it was coming out on fire and going off a guy's hands. Like, that was more the issue than anything else. Like, as opposed to later when he did kind of settle down, it was just being more confident with what he was seeing post snap, not so much who was out there. That's just my opinion on what I saw. I didn't see a difference in guys being open or tighter coverage or anything like that. I actually thought he had much more time in the pocket this game from the start, as opposed to the first game where it felt like everything had to be out right now and they were blitzing him like crazy and doing all kind of other stuff. He didn't even face that this game. And I just thought the results that he wanted weren't there regardless of who was out there. So that's just my kind of opinion on that. But but thanks for the comment, Bill. I always appreciate when you comment. As opposed to or to talk about kind of the receivers that they had. And you're right. And the crazy thing is, I am more of, like, just by nature, like, if you ask me like what I want, I'm always going to, I mean, unless it's just a freak like a Julio Jones, but I like the Odell Beckham's, he's 5'11", 200 pounds. Like, I like the quick, shifty, in and out of breaks guys that create big time separation and things like that. Now, Odell obviously a 50-50 monster as well, but I like that type of guy. I did think that Trey Lance, because he had a tendency coming out to miss passes, and, obviously, like, you want to see him kind of dial in on that and become more consistent with his accuracy. But I did think, like what we saw from Cam Newton early in his career, like, what did the Panthers do? They went and got him Kelvin Benjamin, who ended up being a 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie, and Devin Funchess, right? Like, these big 6'5" guys that have these huge catch radiuses where, as a quarterback, you don't feel like you have to be as perfect throwing them the ball, right? Does something like that help you as a quarterback, knowing that I have a little bit more room for error and don't have to be as pinpoint when throwing to a bigger guy as opposed to maybe a 6 foot or 5'11" guy?
Right, and that's kind of what I was alluding to as far as, like, those dig routes, those in routes that they were throwing, where you get that big physical receiver coming across the middle. Give me a Mike Evans, give me Devontae Adams, give me a 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" type of guy across the middle. They're probably going to be snagging those dig routes. They're able to take on that contact. Even a tight end like a Kittle, I think, would have probably caught those balls. Now, I like the Deebo Samuel. I like Ayuk. I like those guys. Even when Kendrick Bourne was with us, like, I like Kendrick Bourne. But from a physical, like I'm going to physically dominate you. You know, a guy's going to step up across from you.
Yeah.
We don't have that dude. That we don't
So-
have that guy that puts the fear on the outside into a DB. Like, okay, this dude's probably going to be a monster. Go get it. But
So we got a coach right here. And thank you again for the contribution. Love all contributions, and they are highly appreciated when you guys send those in. He says, "I think Jennings could fit that mold you are speaking about, Greg. He is making plays downfield and can break tackles too. We'll see on that. Hurd would have been perfect, but the injuries. You know what? I'll say this about Hurd. Hurd, for everything that he didn't have like the most natural pass catching hands, especially the further downfield he gets." You can tell that there was a transition from him going from running back to receiver. Whereas Jennings, I think he can potentially, like, he is that alpha male. Like, he is that big dog. Like, he is that guy who is the big slot that goes over the middle. I mean, he caught like a bang 8 last week against the Chiefs over the middle without even stopping. He just reached up, plucked the ball out the air, did not care who was coming. And I mean, he just kept it moving. And he did a lot of that at Tennessee as well. And I think why he's so comfortable with that is because he has to win like that. Like, he's not a guy that can win with separation. I think he's had to get comfortable with guys being near him or around him, and he's made that a big part of his game. So I know you asked Greg, coach, but I do think that Jennings could potentially be a guy that really helps Trey Lance through his development. Now, again, we talk about some of the misses and things like that. We talked about it with Josh Allen, some of his misses, and it helped Josh Allen a ton getting Stephon Diggs. And Stephon's not a big guy, but he's just always open. So Josh just trusts him, and he's making plays all over the field, down the field, and routes, getting open, separation. I think you like to see Brandon Ayuk kind of develop more into a Stephon Diggs type of guy. I think he has the ability, but definitely there have been a couple drops over the last 2 games where it's like, if you are going to be what we expect you to be and be that guy, these are catches that you have to make.
Absolutely. I agree. That's like those, it's not, I wouldn't even say next level catches. Those are just like, that's what you're expected to do as a receiver. You're going to have to make plays that aren't necessarily, the easiest of them all the time. You're going to have to make the plays that aren't, that are more off script or catches that are more off script. Right. So I think that, am I still on here? I don't know what happened to my thing. Is it still good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Sorry. My computer was tripping for a second. The catches that aren't just, your turn and catch and the ball's on your face. Like, you're going to be expected to expand a little bit, to stretch out a little bit, to make these off script catches that aren't, the one-on-one or the routes on air type of catches where you got guys across the middle. And that's what he's like. Ayuk and Debo both know their role. Like, I think that Ayuk would play more, or he'd be more of the outside the hash type of guy. Debo is built more for the across the middle type of catches, the dig routes, the in routes, because he can withstand or sustain the contact throughout the game, given that he stays healthy.
Right.
He can sustain a little bit more because of the body that he's got. He reminds me more of an Anquan Bolden type of guy. I think that with him and Kittle and Ayuk, you give us that, again, the Jennings type of guy that could fit that mold. I think it's exciting. We got the running backs. We got the inside and the smaller type of receivers. If we can get a guy to fit that mold on the outside and take it and run with it, I think we'll be all right on offense.
Real quick before we get out of here, we spent almost an hour talking about Trey Lance and kind of where he's at right now in his development. And if you guys haven't watched the whole thing, make sure you guys go back and watch, man. We touched on a lot of different things that I don't want to say we're necessarily worried about, but areas where he definitely could improve or become more consistent. We talked about, some of his misses early on in the game and how he ended up settling down and why he settled down and why it looked different and just the comfortability that he ended up having. If you haven't already, make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys like this video. Greatly appreciate it. But we haven't talked about Jimmy Garoppolo, really. You know what I'm saying? And just from the standpoint of, and we brought him up a little bit, a couple passes here and there, but short sample size. But in the 2 series that we've seen him, very limited amount of snaps. do you have any like major takeaways? Because in my opinion, it's kind of what we've grown accustomed to seeing from Jimmy Garoppolo.
We've talked about it much. It's kind of the same as what we've expected, I guess. What we've seen, it's nothing we haven't seen before. So there's not a ton of takeaways from it. Week 3, I don't know. As far as preseason next week, I don't know how much Jimmy's going to play. Maybe
they say the starters are playing 2 quarters.
I was going to say, because I know Josh hasn't played at this point. Jimmy hasn't played a ton. They got to get him in there at some point. You're not going to just throw him in there at week 1 and say, all right, let's go. Time to rock and roll. Like, they're going to have to feel that contact and that soreness and get it out of their body a little bit more and get out there on the field. But it'll be interesting. I think after next week's show, after next week's game, we'll really get a little bit more to talk about as far as Jimmy goes. But, I'd like to see something downfield, a couple things downfield. Like, let's test him. I don't know why Kyle hasn't tested him yet, just to see it. Like, we've talked about it or the practice stuff as far as Jimmy, sitting there throwing deep balls. Like, give me a couple shots downfield. Why not? Yeah. Let's see it. I want to see what he's got now moving into this year as far as downfield throws. But I think that at the same time, what we've seen with Jimmy, the time he's been with the 49ers, is going to be what we're going to see this year. That's what type of player he is. I think what Trey Lance brings is a lot more exciting from the physical perspective, the extending plays perspective, the throws downfield that most guys can't make that Trey Lance will be able to make. So I think that's exciting, and that will be exciting to talk about. But I think from up to this point and what we'll see probably next week, if it's the same, it's going to be a good run, solid offense with some throws across the middle and nothing crazy outside for Jimmy Garoppolo.
All right, and just as we close out, if you guys have any questions, go ahead, get the questions in real quick for Greg as we kind of close out right now. But do you have any like words of encouragement for people maybe worried about the progression of Trey Lance and what they're seeing?
I think that we've seen him play, 3 quarters?
Yeah.
Roughly in the NFL so far. It's not much, right? And he's not playing with all the starters next to him either. Just because he's playing against other ones doesn't mean he's necessarily playing with his ones either. There's guys on the line. There's Kittle that's out. There's, I think
most of them play. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them aren't even playing. So he's working with guys that are also rookies or second or third string guys too. So, once he comes into it a little bit more, like he's done right now what I've kind of expected. Like I'm not worried about it. I think that once he gets comfortable, once he has a better understanding, he's 3 weeks into the Niners, 4 weeks into the Niners playbook realistically. Like once he gets into it a little bit more, gets a season under his belt, there's a reason why a rookie quarterback up to this point hasn't won a Super Bowl, right? He's never taken a team to the Super Bowl. Like that's kind of how rookies play. I mean, they got to be able to have a little bit of feel. They got to get in there, get that experience, the goods, the bads. They're going to fail a little bit more than they probably succeed right off the bat. But I'm not worried about it. I think what he brings to the game is exciting. I think that he's going to bring an element that we haven't seen in a while with his feet. I think that he'll bring an element that we haven't seen I don't even know how long with his arm. From even an accuracy standpoint, like he's an accurate quarterback. He's rushing through some things right now. And once he gets comfortable, it's going to be exciting to see.
All right, here real quick. And we have a coach here. He says he wants to know what you're doing these days.
Oh, so I am training quarterbacks from a youth level, 10 years old, all the way up to currently college guys. And I do have some NFL dudes that we work with in the off season, but I have college guys. I have high school guys, some of the top high school quarterbacks around. And I'm here in the Central Valley. So I'm in the Fresno, Clovis area, but I go all the way up to Modesto. I got guys that come from the Bay Area, guys that come from SoCal, Sacramento. So I'm training quarterbacks. I have about 50 to 60 quarterbacks that I train a week, all levels. And then in the off season, I do have some of the pro guys back. I have some pro receivers, have some pro quarterbacks, college guys that'll come. I'm also doing some draft prep stuff. So come January, we'll be doing draft prep stuff for some college quarterbacks. Don't know exactly who we'll have yet, and that's decided with the agents, but we'll have a couple quarterbacks that will be training for the NFL draft, and probably a couple of receivers as well over at our facility, Athletic Performance here in Clovis. So I've done a couple camps. I'm going to do a couple camps next year as well.
We're going to do a camp together.
Yeah, we're going to probably do a camp out there in the South. We're going to get out there with Croc and do a camp in the South, and I'll probably take a couple visits to the South next year. But no, just having fun training quarterbacks, watching these guys on Friday nights, Saturdays, and even Sundays too.
All right. Yeah, and he says that from like kind of a modest standpoint, but he's really like that guy. All right. Greg is that guy. He's doing it big in the quarterback business. Let's see. Got another question here. If Jimmy starts week 1, do you think there is going to be any design run plays or run and pass plays for Trey Lance?
Yeah, that question kind of came up. Is there going to be a package deal for Trey Lance? I don't know, man. Like I saw on Twitter, I don't know if it was Grant that was talking about it this past week, that he would expect there to be some package stuff. I don't know. Like if the game is going well, then why? Why would you do some package stuff, right? But at the same time, I don't know. It's going to be a fine line between screwing with Jimmy's head if the game's going well and throwing Trey Lance in for no reason, or if the game's not going so well, then maybe you're going to put him in. I don't know. I think either way, like if you want the best Jimmy that you got and things are going well week 1, there wouldn't be any reason to put a package in there for them other than just to get Trey Lance reps. But I think, again, that's what the preseason is built for, and Trey Lance will get reps during the season as well. But it's during the season, I mean at practice. But if they do throw in some package stuff, would I be surprised? Honestly, yeah, a little bit. But at the same time, like I would get it. I guess I would understand a little bit as well. I don't know. What do you think, Croc?
You're looking at it from a quarterback's perspective, right?
From a quarterback perspective, like if Jimmy is doing well, then what is the point? Like if the offense is operating how it should, I don't know if I would necessarily see them putting a package together for Trey Lance, other than the fact that, and I guess I would ask what type of package, design, run, pass plays. So probably more RPO stuff where he can get out and utilize his legs. I think at this point in Trey Lance's career, I don't know if the Niners will want to put him out there in that position to make him vulnerable. Like, here, you're the crash test dummy. We're going to do some things with your legs and let you go get smacked a couple times just so we can extend some plays. I think we got 3 solid running backs they'll be able to do that. But I don't know. I'm not really sure if they're going to do some package stuff. I wouldn't anticipate it, but I wouldn't be surprised either.
Kyle said they're going to do it.
Well, there you go. If the boss man is saying they're going to do it, then they're going to do it.
He said Trey Lance will play. He said Trey Lance will play this year.
Okay.
And it almost was like, whatever that looks like, I don't know, but he will play.
Week 1, so on this question right here, I would expect them to put some package stuff throughout the year, but week 1, I don't know. I really don't know. I can't say.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. Let's see. We got one comment here from Frank. If you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. I don't even think the phrase is if you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. I think it's if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. And I think that's what the 49ers are right now. I think the 49ers is a little different because you have a rookie who you drafted number 3 overall, and you're expecting to play him at some point. And you have a guy that's basically kind of the bridge between that right now. So I think a team that has more of an issue with this is like the Denver Broncos, where they don't know if they like Bridgewater or Drew Lock more. Like that's more of kind of an issue. And, but I do agree with this from a standpoint of trying to figure out how to incorporate 2 guys, right? Like a 2 QB system. And we've seen that kind of going back. There were some colleges that would like give one guy one drive, then another guy another drive. Like if you're doing that, then you definitely you don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, and I would not anticipate Shanahan doing that. If you do that, that's you're showing that you're really not confident at all on who you got, and you're just kind of throwing something out there and see what sticks. But and again, most guys that do that, either they don't have a quarterback and they're not confident in either one of them, or one of them brings a completely different element to the game, which I think from an arm talent perspective, yes, he brings a different element. From a running perspective, yes. But at the same time, he's not Lamar Jackson, right? He's not this guy that's going to be outrunning safeties and outrunning corners on the field. So I don't know what that package is going to look like. I think that, like you said, Jimmy is the bridge right now. They obviously gave up a lot of equity to go get Trey Lance. At some point or another, whether it's this year, whether it's game 2, game 3, game 5, 12, whatever it may be, Trey Lance is going to play at some point or another. Whether he's the starter, I guess that'll be decided on how the record looks going into that point where he comes into the game.
All right, well, I think that's a good note to end on. I appreciate everybody that came in here today. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate the super chats. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We've had a good amount of people in here consistently. I appreciate everybody that showed up. Greg, again, thank you for coming on. And we'll see all y'all next time. Peace.
Intercepted. It is picked up by Aaron Rodgers over midfield. He'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Cross Talk TV podcast. Peace.